Hey everyone, it's Gary here, and today I want to talk about 3 different kinds of cameras that you can use for shooting soccer video. Now, first of all, I want to say there are no bad cameras, okay? There's only what's right for you. But there are going to be some cameras that are better than others, no matter what situation you get into. Now, the first one I want to talk about, really 4 cameras, okay? So the first one I want to talk about is the type of camera that I'm shooting this video on. Because I have my other cameras here, I'm actually just putting my phone on a tripod. And a lot of people will shoot video on their iPhone or an iPad, and that's okay, but I really want to say don't do that. There's a bunch of reasons why. 1, it gets too much shake. 2, you gotta look at the screen. 3, when you get into further distances, it's not that good. And 4, the camera size is just too small, okay? It works okay on a sunny day, but it will not work very well at night. It does not work very good indoors. It does not work as good on a cloudy day. On a sunny day, it's fine. And you know, for your occasional, hey, let's just pop up the video and shoot it, it's fine. Now, the number 2 type of camera is going to be the automatic camera, something like a VEO. It's a VEO. Those are decent cameras. They're very expensive. You have to have a subscription. The nice thing about them is that they cover the whole field and you don't have to do anything. It's like an automatic cameraman. Now, of course, the big disadvantage is, again, very expensive. You have to have a subscription. When you stop paying that subscription, your camera stops working. So now what you have is a $2,000 paperweight. I don't like that. Okay, one of the big advantages to these types of cameras is that you can use them for soccer, you can use them for anything, and when you want to use them, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, you still have the camera. You don't have to pay a subscription, and you can use it, like I said, for all sorts of different things. So what I really want to focus on today is going to be what type of camcorder should you consider, or an SLR, or should you consider one over the other? And I want to cover a couple very important topics on that because depending on how you shoot video, it's really going to make a difference, okay? Now, before I get into what camera to choose, I want to say that there are really no bad cameras today. All of the cameras that you buy are going to be good. I mean, it's like buying an unreliable car nowadays. They just don't exist. All of the cameras that you buy are going to give you good results. It's just a matter of how good. And this is a case where 2 things come into play. 1, when you are considering cameras, when you spend more money, you get a better camera. It's almost universally true. It's not, you know, just like jewelry where you spend a bunch of money and it's just more status because it says Gucci on it or whatever the heck, okay? When you spend more money on a camera, you get a better camera. But here's where you have to watch out. Sometimes you are getting a better camera, but sometimes you are just getting more features in the camera, okay? And I'll expound on this a little bit more as we go along. When you are buying a camera, there's going to be oftentimes a range inside of a platform, okay? And that platform is going to be basically what size lens or type of camera lens you're getting in camcorder style, and also the image processor, okay? And it's just like a car. If you buy a truck with a Hemi in it, it doesn't matter whether it's the high end with all the power windows, leather seats, or the low end stripper. It's the same engine, it's the same transmission. You'll get the same general horsepower, the same performance out of it. And then it just comes down to niceties. So one thing I want you to watch when you're buying a camera, if it's within a certain platform, like let's say a Rebel or something like that, I can't think of one off the top of my head, there might be a low tier and a high tier. That's just a difference in features, but the actual video quality is going to be basically the same because it's the same engine inside, the same image processor inside. So the other thing is that bigger is better. So spend more because you'll get a better camera. And then bigger is better. And what I mean by that is the image size or the image processor that's inside here. Think of that as the engine, okay? A bigger engine in a car is going to typically give you better performance. A bigger image processor inside your camera is going to give you higher quality images. Don't get caught up in that whole 24 megapixel, 20 megapixel, whatever. higher end cameras will, the specs get tricky, okay? But just think, A, spend more money, B, bigger is better. And what you really need to look at is your lens size too. If you think about a telescope has that big giant lens because it has to pull in all this light from space, you know, basically from a long distance, and in darkness, you know, it's pulling that light in. It's the same thing with the camera. When you have a big lens, it's going to pull in more light so that when you are shooting at night, when you're shooting under the lights, which, you know, they kind of look like it's bright, but it's not, right? You'll get really poor quality from your camera, especially if you're using an iPhone or an iPad. But when you're shooting at night, when you are shooting indoors, when you are shooting on a cloudy day, you want to have a bigger lens so it pulls in more light. And then you want that additional light to go onto a bigger image processor so you get a better image. So what I like to do is I like to get a camera and I go to a higher end. But what I do is I'll go to a camera platform that is usually what they'll call like a prosumer, okay? And that's where they'll take a professional level camera, the insides of a nice camera, and they'll put it into more of a consumer package. So you get this price point that's in between your consumer package, not as high as your professional package, but it has the engine. So think of it as, again, buying a stripped down work truck, but it has a great engine in it. You know, it has the 5.7 Hemi and the 8-speed transmission, okay? You're not getting the power windows, you're not getting the leather seats, you're not getting some of the other things of the high-end professional camera, but you know, this is a perfect example of a camera that is using a professional level CMOS processor, image processor, and giving you great results, okay? Now, another thing that I want you to consider, and this is critical because people get caught up in the megapixel, don't worry about it. People get caught up in the 4K versus non-4K, all right? Now, almost everything today is 4K, but there's oftentimes an asterisk on the 4K. But I don't even want you to think about 4K or not 4K, or whether it's an asterisk 4K or whatever the case might be. What I want you to think about is frame rate. So when you're looking at the specs, you have to get a 60 frame rate per second camera. And oftentimes it'll be abbreviated to FPS. So you have to have a camera that is 60 FPS, 60 frames per second. And the reason you need that is because the space is very large and you have action going. So you have players running. You have the camera sweeping as you're following the fast break. You have the ball bouncing. You have all these things going on. So you need a very high frame rate to catch all that action so you don't get these like weird skips in your video. Now, I will assure you that this camera here, this is not a 4K camera. This is a Canon Vixia G30, all right? This is actually 2 generations old now. The cameras you buy today are actually a G50. This is a G30. Now this comes back to spending more money. This camera is 2 generations old. This camera is a Canon 770D. I think the new ones now are either 80. Well, I know they're either 80, they might be 90D. So this one's at least 1 generation behind and probably coming up on 2, all right? But because I spent more money 6 or 8 years ago, I don't remember when I bought these exactly, but it's been a while, right? The cameras that you buy at the higher end range are so good that you'll never upgrade. So when you buy these things, what I want you to think about is spend more money, get up to that next level of performance, go to Best Buy, use their 18-month financing, and maybe you can't afford, you know, a $1,000 camera today, which is about what this costs, about $1,000, $1,200. Okay, but think about it over 18 months. Now you're looking at 60, 70, 80 bucks a month, right? And then I want you to think about the fact you're going to keep this camera for 6, 7, 8, 9 years. It's going to last you a very, very long time. You will not need to replace this camera for the life of your kid in soccer. You just won't. And you'll keep it beyond that, because I can assure you that when people see the quality of the video that comes out of this camera that's 2 generations old, it's still better than the lower end cameras that are, you know, basically the modern cameras today. All right. Now, like I said, those cameras still put out good results until you get into low light conditions. And then you need a bigger lens, you need a bigger image processor. And that's where these higher end cameras will really come into play. So 60 frames per second get a big camera, a big lens, big image processor, and now you have to start thinking about which of these two do you buy? Do you buy a SLR or do you buy a camcorder? And there's different reasons why you buy both. If I were going to buy one camera today and I were going to keep it on a low tripod, in other words, I wasn't going to get a tripod that goes up high, I would probably buy one of these. I would get the SLR. And the reason I would do that is because I like having the interchangeable lenses. You know, I can pop this off and put it on as a different lens very easily. I like the ability to take pictures. I mean, pictures are still fun to take. People like to look at them. I still like taking them. The video quality on these are excellent. There's really, you know, this versus this. I'm not that much of a technophobe. I couldn't tell you which one's better, but I can tell you that these provide phenomenal video. It's not like you're compromising your video quality to go to this instead of this. This gives you phenomenal video quality. Now, what are the disadvantages to this type of format? Well, first of all, your battery is contained in here, okay? So the battery isn't as strong. Now, you can just buy another battery, so that solves that problem, okay? And the other problem is you do not get a dual slot. You get a single slot SD card in here. So you have one SD card, one small battery. Here, I have a extended battery, all right? So this extended battery, again, I just bought it aftermarket. I charge this up one time. I can literally get through an entire tournament, 3-4 games off one battery, all right? This also has 2 SD cards, okay? So now I have a bigger battery. I have multiple SD cards. So I can get through, without charging this battery, an entire tournament without a problem. Here I've got a problem. I either have to have additional batteries because I connected this battery to last more than probably one game, and 90-minute game, of course. And then what's going to happen is that it takes too long to charge. I can't go to a tournament, video a game, and then 2 hours later have this ready to go again and then get the whole game in. It takes too long to charge it up. So you have to have multiple batteries. Now, the other funky thing about these cameras, and this isn't due to the camera, this is due to our crazy government. They have a restriction that they can only take video for 20 minutes. Then you have to stop it and start it again, which is weird. Now, but it's not something that Canon decides. That's, again, it's due to some sort of classification on the imports. If you are on a low tripod, though, it doesn't matter because you're going to start and stop the camera when the ball goes out. When someone kicks the ball way out of bounds, why bother leaving the camera on? Just turn it off and turn it on. So it's not like the camera cannot record more than 20 minutes. It can only record 20 minutes at a time. So every time you stop it and start it again, you're actually resetting that 20-minute time duration. If you're up high on a big tall tripod, you run the risk of not having the camera turned back on. I mean, you got a controller or a remote control, but you just don't know for sure, okay? So that is a big advantage to these cameras. And oh, the other advantage is it shoots an MP4. So you can take this SD card out, throw it right in and import it and play with it and do whatever you want. This camera, like I said, a couple advantages. You can put it up on a tripod, you turn it on, you let it run forever, all right? It doesn't matter. It's not going to shut off. You're going to get phenomenal quality. You will record in, you can record in this camera with ABC HD is the native best quality, okay? And not getting too technical because I'm not really that camera technophobe. It's supposed to be a better video quality. I personally cannot tell the difference between the ABC HD and an MP4. I can't, okay? So this will not record in a format that you can just take and play with a lot of things. What you have to do is take it, put it into your computer, render it as a MP4, okay? Which is okay because, again, what I do when I put this camera up on a big tripod, I don't want all that garbage. I put this up, you know, like 5-10 minutes before the game. It runs for a few minutes after the game. You know, I might leave it running through halftime, you know, whatever. So this will This will give you great results. You have one big battery, you get through the whole tournament. You don't have to carry additional lenses. You know, what this was as an advantage of having additional lenses, this is an advantage to everything having itself contained right here. Okay, you don't have to have multiple lenses, carry multiple lenses, interchange them. Everything is right here. It's just bing, bam, boom. You're taking video, you got the screen, you put it up on your tripod, and you're good to go. So both of these cameras will do a good job for you. Both of these are in the what they call a prosumer. So if I were buying a camera today, this is a Canon EOS, however you pronounce it. Right now mine's a 70, but the one they sell today is an 80D. So this is a G30, but again, Vixia G50. So if you go to Best Buy, you'd want a G50. They don't always carry these in stock, so you might have to order it, but it only takes a couple days. Now, when you buy these things from Best Buy, also, if you buy a higher end camera, they will throw in some stuff. So don't be bashful. Make sure that they throw in a couple extra, doodads for you, some extra SD cards, or maybe a camera case or something, but they will do that. So both these cameras are great. I use them both for shooting soccer video. If you see the video results that come out, even after we put them up online and they get compressed a little bit, the quality is phenomenal. People are always impressed by the quality that comes out of these. If you shoot your video on an iPad, it will work. You can buy aftermarket lenses, it'll work, okay? But it's not gonna work as good. It just isn't. You buy something purpose-built, it's always gonna be better than something that's added on. You just can't take something this size. I mean, look at the size of the lens. Compare that to the type of lens you're getting on your iPhone or iPad. There's no comparison. And again, in a sunny day, the iPad will look okay. But when you get into those night games, when you get into an indoor game, that's where it all falls apart. Now, the camera will still keep going, but what it does, anytime you get into poor lighting, it just reduces the quality of your video because it can only process so much. It can only kind of figure out what's going on. So all these things are taking that light and they're putting it into a digital format and they're trying to put the colors to it and what's happening, right? But if the lens can't pull in enough light, the processor, the image processor has to make do with what it gets, right? So garbage in, well, more garbage out. So when you get more light into your lens, you're going to get a better quality image because more light onto a larger image processor gives you better results. That's just the way it is. So size matters. Do what you can to step up in your budget. All right. Now, I'm not getting paid by Canon for these things. Nikon puts out good cameras too, but I would go with a Canon myself. I've done a lot of research on these things. The Canons, that's just what I would buy is Canon. Okay, there's other good brands out there. I know there are. Sony's got some good stuff. Panasonic has good stuff. All these different companies have good product. Like I said, you really cannot buy a bad camera. These are just the ones I like. They work extremely well. Again, just buy them from Best Buy, put it on 18-month, 0% financing, and step up your budget a little bit. You will not replace these cameras. You'll buy them once, unless they get stolen or broken or whatever. But I mean, these things, they're very, very good cameras. Look at all the reviews. Everyone loves them. All right. So that's it. If you want to record good video that you'll really enjoy watching, don't use an iPhone. All right. If you have the money and you just want to put it up there and let someone else do it, fine. Buy a VO. But just know that you've got to pay for the subscription. They also have small lenses. All right. There's some complexities that go in there when you have to take video like this and then stitch it all together. There's a lot of software that's putting things together versus native. Now, in the next video, what I'm going to do is, well, I'll probably have to do a follow-up video for the things I forgot in this video, but or answer some questions. If you have questions or comments, leave them below and I'll get to them. I'll make sure I answer your questions and do the best I can. Okay. In the next video, I'm going to show you what type of camera to use. All right. Sometimes I use a regular standard tripod. If I'm up in a stadium, especially, just set it up. You're already up high and you're shooting down. Sometimes I shoot with a tall pole. Okay. And I'll tell you which one I use and how I do it so that I can go to the game and watch the game. One of the things that people like about the Vios is you don't have to do anything. You just stick it up and then it shoots the video for you. But I'm gonna show you how you can do it so that you don't have to sit there and look through the lens, because I do not look through the lens. I hate looking through the lens. It's like watching it on TV, but on a really crappy small lens with glare from the sun, you know, shining down on your lens, or your screen, I should say. So I don't like doing that. I'll show you how I do it, and it's very, very simple, okay? Very simple to do it manually, and I'll cover that in the next video. So again, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, I'm sure I missed something, or I'd be happy to answer questions that you may have. Just put them down below in the comment section and I will get to them, and I will do the best I can to answer all your questions for you. And again, keep in mind, this is all about soccer, right? There's probably a whole bunch of different solutions for different purposes, and I'm sure your iPhone works great at a birthday party or wherever the hell you're using it, you know, just like I'm using it for this review. But when you're talking sports, you got to step up and get something like this, and your results are going to be so much better. You will definitely see the difference. All right, this is Gary with Soccer Pro, hoping you record better video so you can make smarter players and win more games. Bye now.